Episode number 10 of SaaS Coach. Welcome, Andy.
Hi, Tony.
How's it
It's
going?
Andy Halko.
Tony's Eyes.
It's good. Next week's Halloween. Are you going to wear a costume for our show?
I am.
Okay.
I have an idea, but I'm going to keep it secret.
Oh.
Yeah.
So when I don't have a costume, but you have one, that's going to be awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm excited. We got episode 10.
Yep.
We're pretty far into the 10 principles, right?
Absolutely.
What are we on?
We are on, I want to say principle number 7?
8, I think.
Okay. Here we go.
It's right behind you.
There we go. Principle 8.
That's how I know. I can see it. So, yeah, we've got principle number 8, which is all about images. This is a fun one for me. I enjoy talking about images and how they impact people. I think most people don't understand how little elements of an image or what you choose can make a massive impact to conversion. So it's really...
Did you say that was massive? Or?
It's massive,
okay.
You know? So, today is really about what is the science of images, because I really do think the use of images throughout a site are a science more than an art. And most people that I deal with, they go in front and they look at a mock-up or a landing page and they choose it based off of just what do they think is going to work or what do they feel good. And that's not what we're really trying to do. We want to make sure that we're thinking about it intelligently, maybe running some A/B tests, which we've been talking about a lot, and making sure that we're choosing images that are going to drive more results for the company.
And I think that's crucial. So when most people are looking to build a site out and they're in that design planning stages, they're thinking about how the images look. Mm-hmm. And you want images that are aesthetically pleasing, that reinforce your brand messaging and all that. But how does it impact the behavior of the visitor?
Yeah.
And that's what we're really talking about today. And then in particular, not just the activity or the actions of the visitor, but to get that to help improve conversions,
right,
along with everything else we've been talking. We're really focused on conversion aspect.
I mean, that's what all this has been about, is conversion. You said the right word, behavior. Mm-hmm. I'm a huge behavioral psychology fan, and really understanding what makes people tick and why do they act. And these images are behavioral psychology. Yeah. You'll see with some of the examples, we're going to show a couple really cool examples today. So you're going to see real world, this is the difference between two different images and how people think. But it truly does come down to how humans behave and how they think and feel that ends up impacting their decisions. And their decisions are to typically, move forward, hit that add to cart button, start a free trial, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. And so we're really trying to make the right selections that are going to get us better results.
Yeah. Good
so let's dive in. I think it's fun. This is one of my favorites, and we didn't remind everybody, but this is our SaaS principles download that people can get access to. You can get all 10 principles that we've got, and so this is in there. But this is one of my favorite examples. So this is the baby looking forward versus looking to the text, mm-hmm. and this is using eye tracking. So actually what they do is people will go into a studio and it'll track where their eyes move on the screen.
That's cool.
What is really neat about this one is if you look at the top one where the baby's looking forward, people are looking into the baby's eyes. That's our natural human psychology, is we want to look mm-hmm. at each other. Every time I look at you, you kind of look at me.
Yep.
But on the one that's down below, what you see is the red heat marks when the baby's looking toward the text. The eyes of the visitor are also going over to that text and that add to cart button. And so it's really important that we've got that human psychology that we want to look where someone else is looking if we change our position of our head.
Yeah.
And so that can impact where are we drawing someone's eyes. And the challenge is that most people, when they design a site, they're looking at these images and they're attracted to the top one.
That's a more attractive image perhaps, but that's more effective.
Because we like seeing people's eyes, You look into it and you see their eyes and you go, wow, I'm connecting to that.
Yeah.
Well, you're connecting to that image, but that's the problem. What we want is them to connect to the text.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's really intriguing to me it is human psychology but it really shows a concrete example as simple as where the image is looking. And we've seen this. We work with a company that works with dogs, and it's even a dog looking to the right instead of a baby or whatever it might be, can drive people to look in the right direction.
I've seen similar instances of this, and it was, like someone pointing as well.
Right.
So not just eyes as well, but even just like, the image goes this way, pointing towards the text, as opposed to like an image that's turned out the other way, and very similar effect. So
yeah, it's all subtle, but I mean, these things
so
matter.
subtle, but it's a big difference.
And that's a big piece of, are you choosing the right image for the right purpose?
Yeah.
And I do think images can be almost a guide rail for where you want to drive people on a site. Mm-hmm. So that's a really cool example. My other favorite one is this A/B test. This is getting a little old, but I still really enjoy it because I think it's a great example. Is we've got this conversion landing page for Dinner with Barack. And so basically the only fields that you can fill out are email and zip code to get started. So we ran a test, or we didn't run it, but this is an example, a test between these two versions. And the only thing that's different is really the image. Now the cool thing is the one on the right here actually got 20% higher conversion.
Significant.
That's significant. I want, you want people to think, like, if you get 1,000 visitors to a page, that's 200 more people. And so if you're selling a software online, imagine for your pricing page or your home page getting 20% increase and what that can mean for your software. And so the interesting thing that I just see about the images is the big differences in this one. He's looking forward, he's got a suit on, you can't see the faces of the people there, he still looks extremely friendly.
Yeah.
But here's the cool thing about this one is you get a different view. You see his wife, his sleeves are rolled up, you see the faces of the people that are actually having dinner. Yep. They're conversing, they have smiles. You've got two handlers that are behind them, again creating some sort of safe zone for whoever's going to get dinner with Barack, because it might be intimidating to be with him alone. And so really you just have to think that, in a couple seconds someone is making a decision whether they want to convert on this. Mm-hmm. And in those few seconds, just the subtle subconscious of, oh, this makes me feel much safer, I feel like I'd have a better experience, it feels more relaxed, all these different things make a 20% impact.
It's crazy.
On conversion.
Yeah. In this example, I always think it's interesting because that is just, he's so recognizable instantly. I mean, you can figure out it's him, but you kind of got to look a little closer because his hand's kind of covering his face. That, you see it and it's like, wow, Barack Obama. That one, so when I first saw this, I was kind of surprised by that, because if I were to pick and just fit into that.
Well, and that's the point, is I think people, you look at a homepage and a lot of times you have a banner at the top. Your homepage is one of the top pages that people come in and hit right away. And we choose that just, again, based off of assumptions or what we think. But the truth is, and we've said this a lot throughout our show, is that A/B testing like this is the only way to have concrete information that one thing works over another thing.
Yeah, it's not just that opinion, it's subjective, it's data, evidence.
Well, we're fallible. We fall into the same traps of psychology that we think things are right, but we don't know until especially our target audience hits that. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing that people forget a lot of times, is that what you really want to do is either think of this from the lens of your target audience or be testing. A lot of times the people that create a software or build it or whatever it might be are not necessarily the target audience. They don't think the same way. Yeah. And so we're making decisions based off of what we think and feel.
And it's so familiar when it's yours and you're visiting the site, see all the time, worked with it for a long period of time. When you have a visitor that's coming for, let's say, the first time, or they're just coming back again to look around, totally different. So 100%. Getting that perspective is important. I would say also you get, if you have a team of people that are working on this, if I pick this picture, I'm probably going to argue that, that's the better one, right? So you always get those type of subjective,
Well, that's tough. Challenges. Yeah, you're working on a team and everybody's looking for the right picture, or you've got a photographer that sent them, and maybe there's different levels of quality, and so you've got all these opinions swimming around.
Yeah.
But the reality is that it's not just a simple decision that's meaningless, and that's kind of the biggest piece for this episode, is that people shouldn't treat images like it's just who cares?
It's not just the aesthetic.
Right.
It's what actions are they helping to drive or not.
100%. So this is why an episode like this is so important. This I thought was a cool example. So this kind of did some eye tracking, but simplified it down to show the order in which people's eyes move. So this was interesting that
cool.
People kind of started with the main message here on Basecamp, went to the logo, and then went right over to the image at the top, but spent about a couple seconds on this side really scanning the image to then go back to the call to action. So what this shows me is that people truly are, this is part of the flow of their decision to get to this call to action. And we might think when we're designing this page, oh, here's this message, then I'm going to say this, then I'm going to say this, then they're going to get to the button. But look at the path that's going on. And so, again, when we choose our screenshots as a software company, and we're not choosing the right one, that's actually the third and fourth that are part of that decision to click that start a free trial.
So what I'm thinking, and this I think is newer, this image. I don't think I've seen, or at least in the deck, I haven't seen this one yet. But I'm thinking is, how does that affect the copy here? Because if I know that that's the path that they're going on, it might change kind of how I'm gonna phrase this, what's in here, because they've just looked at that, right? So there might be more compelling piece of copy you can put there. So.
Well, and the other thing that you see, and this isn't really about today, but I mean, for the most part, people's eyes completely skipped over this text, and what made bigger impact than this message was this. And so that's why I think headlines are so important. We've talked about that before, scannability of content, but then how that relates to the imagery really does drive. And it's funny that even in the eye tracking, the 7th was the validation, that people then go down to that with those logos, and then they probably come back up. But I think for our audience, the big key takeaway is when you're designing a page, you're naturally going to think, okay, here's the trajectory of how someone's going to look at the page, and that's not necessarily true.
It's not always just that linear, headline.
And when you do tests on websites and emails, you see this over and over again, is that images draw attention. And so if they're drawing attention, and then like our previous slide, they're giving an impression that either causes conversion or doesn't, that makes them a huge important decision to make.
So it's either working for you or it's working against you.
100%.
Why not make them work for you as best you can?
Just another example, this is from High Rise, which is also related to Basecamp, but they did this A/B test between this kind of long form design that had features, a call to action, some testimonials, some other stuff, and then simplified it down where they had an image of a person, screenshot of the product, a quote here, so taking this whole section of videos, simplifying it, key features, some other screenshots from it, and your call to action. Look at it, 102% increase in conversion rate. And there's a couple things, even if you look at it side by side, again, I'm making assumptions even looking at this, but the person does draw your attention in. It's a little more visual.
That's where the starting point, right? You look at it and it draws you right up there.
And you think, they come here, but then it's so close to their eye line that you see this keeping track of your business, probably down here to this, which gives you that confirmation of this is an easy to use product, and then over. And again, I'm guessing, but here it's like, where are your eyes going to go? It's here, and then if the fold is like here, it's hard to see what the path. There's so much.
It's kind of scattered.
Exactly. And so it's interesting to see. I mean, 102 is so significant. And it's just crazy to see. And so again, just the selection of this is icons and some faces, but this major redesign was a massive impact to conversion. And then the interesting piece of this one is that this company also did A/B testing
That's cool.
on different people. So this is our first person, Jocelyn. She's fantastic. But Michael, for whatever reason, again, 5% almost higher.
Yeah.
And this is where I think the lesson is that we don't want to stop. So we did the redesign, we got that 102%, but can we take 102 and make that 107?
You know, I was wondering why Mari got fired.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, you went
empty
she
cubicle
left
that one
link-
day. I
yeah,
walked
right.
in, I was like, "Where did she go?"
She's off on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and that's the complete reason why. 0.8% down. You know, and again, this is one of those things. We would probably pick these people out of a lineup and say, "Oh, it would be great to put Jocelyn on there. You know,
Sure.
she represents her audience, or whatever it is." But ironically, Michael, for whatever reason, has that magic face that people just want to.
He looks like
take
someone
action.
just started to tickle him a little bit.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
That's what's it.
So, but you know, this is one of those interesting things that over time, even if you get a great boost in conversion, you can still keep running this to understand it. And then the other thing that I would do, if this is a landing page, is separate my ads and test different ones with different messages or audiences. Because maybe a more male audience coming to more of a male figure does something, or same thing with female, or whatever it is. And this is just one of those things that, you know, it's not about personal preference, it's not about any political agenda, it's really just we're trying to increase results, and we have to test and figure out what works for our target audience. And this 5% here alone can game change a business, let alone the 100% that we just dealt with.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy stuff.
Yeah, and so I do think, you know, for the audience out there, you've looked through all these principles. Hopefully you've watched some other of our shows. We've talked about content hierarchy of like headlines and being able to scan and having clear call to actions. We've talked about multiple conversions, even validation and other stuff that's used on all of these examples we just talked about. And now you look at images, and this is where I think when you take these 10 principles that we've put together, and we say this at the end of the show, but you take each one and you make some little changes, and the numbers can just skyrocket for you. And like we've also talked about A/B testing. If you're not doing it, I mean, we love A/B testing here. It's one of our favorite things because it does give you those concrete results.
Yeah,
for sure.
And you're just, you know, again, you can chip away at it, principle at a time.
Yeah.
Just in little but incremental and sometimes super significant, you know, improvements, which is, you know, easy to do, follows up. What's cool is this does demonstrate, you know, the 100% improvement, that layout, right? It's following like you said, it's following, what principle is that? It's like one of the first ones, right? Making content scannable and easy to read.
The only thing with this test that I don't like it is changing the quote.
Yeah.
And so, you know, one thing that we may have talked about in A/B testing is that you want to limit the number of changes that you're making, just because then I don't know what did it. You know, Michael did get 5%, but searching through old email conversations was a pain, versus all our customers' tasks and conversations are in high rise.
Fired her too soon.
Yeah,
There was
it
actually a
was the
copy,
quote.
right?
It was let her go too soon. But I mean, that's really that's the one maybe caveat that I have to this, is that the test did two things.
Great point.
Which really doesn't, you know, give us 100% concrete. So you have to be careful when you're doing that A/B testing.
Yeah. You typically want just the one variable.
One variable.
You can prove that it is that element that's causing the different responses.
Right. And then people ask how long. My sense would be we've got 4 of these. It's more what's statistical confidence.
Yeah.
And so it's not the amount of time, but the number of people.
Correct.
So if I have 1,000 people that come to each of these, I have a certain level of statistical confidence that works, versus you know, only 200 to each. Then my confidence level is really low. So if your site's getting a lot of visitors, you can run these tests super fast. But if you're only getting 20 visitors a day, you might have to let a test run for 2 months to really understand what's working or not.
Great point.
Yeah, so that's kind of the summary of the show. Again, I think it ties into the rest of these principles, but if you're putting images on the site, if you're putting them in the banners, you're using screenshots on different pages, you're doing these layouts of how you design, images cannot be just a, hey, that looks good, let's throw it in here, or something that, you know, the owner comes along and says, I feel good about that image, that's the one I like out of the 5. That shouldn't be the thought process.
Yeah.
Especially on pages that are trying to drive conversion. You want to step back, look at them, and say, okay, we can make some assumptions, let's do that, but then let's hopefully test this as well.
Definitely.
So that's what it's all about. That's principle number 8.
Yeah, principle number 8. And if you want to go ahead and get that guidebook to creating a killer SaaS website, just go to saas.coach. You can download it there. It reviews the principles we've been talking about. We've got a couple more coming up still.
Yeah, we've got a couple more episodes which are listed right on the page. I think the next 4 that we've got coming up. And then on saas.coach, we've got tons of great articles.
Yep.
Soon we've got some really other cool content that's coming. So if you're really into SaaS and especially driving increases in conversions, I think it's worth kind of browsing around, looking at some of those articles and videos. I mean, again, 5%, 100%, 20%, little things can make huge impacts to a business.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback, leave it for us. We'll respond, get back to it. And if that's it for you, that's it for me. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, everybody. We had fun. Have a great week.
And
See ya.
I'll be in costume next week.
He'll be in costume.
I don't know about him.
I don't know about me. Later, all.